Enforcement. Christina Pacheco, Assistant Attorney General. Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office Chief Deputy Donna Lazinski. Brian Fry, who is a Seminole Heights community leader, as well as Bill Truitt from the Seminole Heights community. And most importantly, the families of Monica Hoffa, Ben Mitchell, and Ronald Felton. I want to begin by addressing the most important people in the room today, and those are the families of the victims. What you all just did inside of that courtroom this morning was nothing short of amazing. It takes an astounding amount of strength and courage. We are all behind you as we move forward together in honor of Ben, Monica, Anthony, and Ronald. I want to give our community insight into why my office made the decision to accept the defendant's plea of guilty as charged to 4 counts of first-degree murder in avoidance of the death penalty in exchange for 4 consecutive life sentences. The evidence in this case is substantial. We are confident that a jury would have found him guilty as charged if we moved forward to a jury trial, which was scheduled for August. We've been preparing for this trial for years. Just recently, the defendant and his attorneys approached this agency with an offer for the defendant to plead guilty as charged to 4 counts of first-degree murder for 4 consecutive life sentences in avoidance of the death penalty. This offer, of course, and our acceptance is without the possibility of parole. I want to be clear. This remains and always will be a death penalty case. What this man did to 4 families and a small community within the city of Tampa is cold, calculated, and unforgivable. However, when this offer was made to our office, we had a moral and ethical obligation to present this offer to the families of the victims, to see how they felt about this killer going to prison for the rest of his life. What we learned sitting down with each family is that they are exhausted and mentally drained after almost 6 years of court hearings, a pandemic, and appeal. They know that whether this case were to go before a jury in August or not, their loved ones are not coming back. Nothing will make them whole again. The family members, though, overwhelmingly supported our acceptance of the defendant's offer to plead guilty to 4 consecutive life sentences. They wanted and they deserve finality. Without the overwhelming support of family members, we would not have accepted the defendant's offer to plead to 4 consecutive life sentences. I want us all to remember that while 4 people who were tragically killed in this case were the victims, they've left behind loved ones who still fight to honor their memory every day. During a lengthy trial, the families would have been forced to listen to horrific testimony and would have to relive the nightmare not only during the trial, but in the years to come during the appellate process. It is for this reason, the family's overwhelming support, that the state accepted the defendant's offer to plead guilty to 4 consecutive life sentences. This will not end the pain and suffering for them, but it will close a painful chapter in this story and begin to provide finality that a trial or death sentence would not provide. Allowing this defendant to plead guilty means that he no longer makes headlines. These families no longer have to see this monster in a courtroom. And I want to be very clear. This was, is, and always will remain a death penalty case. What this monster did to the 4 innocent people and the community of Seminole Heights is unconscionable. But it is rare for a defendant in a death penalty case to do what this defendant did, to approach us with an offer to plead guilty to 4 consecutive life sentences in the Florida State Prison. These families here the families in this case, are my first priority. With their support, this defendant will spend the rest of his life in prison with no parole. This sentence guarantees that the community will be safe from this defendant. He will never again be allowed to walk the streets of Seminole Heights, the city of Tampa, or anywhere else on this planet. I know there may be people in the community who may not agree with this decision. In fact, there was one family member who would have preferred for the defendant to go to trial to face the possibility of the death penalty. Again, this plea does not mean that this is not a death penalty case. It simply means that we are resolving this case as the overwhelming majority of the victims' families wish us to do. So many members of this community were victimized by this serial killer. For 51 long days, our community, especially Seminole Heights, worried, waited, and watched. They watched as the Tampa Police Department staked out the neighborhood, hoping that the killing spree was over. This community watched as 1, then 2, then 3, then finally 4 people were killed. The people in the Seminole Heights community wondered if they or their loved ones were next. It's human nature to want to see this defendant face a jury for these unspeakable crimes. But the families who lost loved ones have already suffered enough. To them, this resolution is justice, and we are honoring that. There is no winning or losing today because nothing will bring back Ben Mitchell, Monica Hoffa, Anthony Niboa, or Ronald Felton. What we can do moving forward, though, is to ensure that these families have our unwavering support. We mourned with them in 2017, and we stand by them here today and for the days to come in honoring their loved ones. We could not have presented such a strong case without a number of people and agencies, and I'd like to thank them here today. Thank you first and foremost to the Tampa Police Department and then Chief Brian Dugan for not only finding this killer, but for being there for our community as we were searching for information and looking for answers. Sergeant Gregory Van Heist worked tirelessly alongside other members of the Tampa Police Department. We thank then Mayor Bob Buckhorn. Mayor, we remember you on the streets every day and every night during the 51-day nightmare that came upon this city. We value and appreciate your leadership then, and we value and appreciate your leadership now. Thank you to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Special Agent Brutnell is here. The swift evidence processing in this case helped build a strong case against this defendant. We thank you for your partnership, sir. Thank you to Christina Pacheco from the Attorney General's office. Your important guidance and hard work during the appeals process have gotten us to where we are today, so thank you. Our partners with the FBI and the Florida Highway Patrol also played important roles, and we thank you for your contributions. Thank you to the Seminole Heights community, everyone in that community who stood by law enforcement and the victims' families, not only during those 51 days of horror, but afterwards when the families needed you. I also want to thank our prosecution team. This team has worked tirelessly since 2017 to prepare to put this defendant on trial. They've worked diligently to be ready to take this case to trial, and our community appreciates your dedication. Finally, and most importantly, I'd like to thank the families of the victims. Thank you for trusting us with your loved ones. Thank you for trusting us to handle this case and to represent your loved ones. They will never be forgotten, and our hearts and our prayers are always with you. I want to invite Tampa Police Department retired Chief Brian Dugan up to say a few words. He and his team were absolutely instrumental in protecting Seminole Heights during those 51 days and also in apprehending the defendant.
Good morning. Benjamin, Monica, Anthony, and Ronald, and that's why we are here today. Justice was served this morning. We may not all like the way justice was served, but trust me, it was served. What this guilty plea does, it confirms what we already knew, that he planned, ruthlessly killed, and held our city hostage for 51 days. His actions shook our city to the core. All of us, the families, the law enforcement team, we all have the same sense of emptiness today that we felt the night we arrested him. This doesn't bring them back. It doesn't take away the family's pain, but hopefully this will allow the families to focus on the good memories of their loved ones and cherish the moments that they have spent with them. But let's be real. Let's not mince words this morning. He cut a deal to save his own ass. He cut a deal. He made an offer of pleading guilty to avoid having a needle stuck in his arm. He was afforded an opportunity that he never gave these 4 victims. And he sat there, sometimes with emotion this morning, but mostly just staring off into the room, not really sure what to do. But he will spend the remainder of his life on earth in a Florida State penitentiary looking over his shoulder all the time. He's not going to a beach volleyball camp. He's going to a Florida State prison, and life is not going to be good for him. I'd like to thank the state attorney team, the TPD team. There's a lot that went into this. Their hard work is what forced this guilty plea. I'd also like to thank our state attorney, Susie Lopez, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention public defender Julianne Holt. Their wisdom in seeing the big picture and bringing this tragedy to a close. There was one person who was not here today, and that's Casimir Nyboa. Casimir is Anthony Nyboa's father, and I still keep in touch with him. He doesn't agree with this. His sense of justice is an eye for an eye. And quite frankly, I get it. Who am I to argue with a grieving father? These were tough times. These were tough stories to hear this morning. And that is why I still think this was the right decision to accept these pleas. The families had to hear not only how their loved ones were killed, but how the other victims were killed. And to have to live through that continuously, I don't think serves any purpose or any justice. I'd like to bring up Kenny Hoffa, who is the father of Monica Hoffa.
Good morning or afternoon. I'm not sure what it is at the moment. I'd like to thank everybody on the prosecution team, and I would like to thank the Tampa Police Department. Mayor Buckhorn for saying, "Bring me his head." I want to thank my family, my brother Bobby, who lives here and went through every minute of this. I got to speak today in court, and I found that it was over 5 years that it took for us to bring this guy to justice. The interesting thing is the evidence never changed. It was the same gun that killed all 4. It was the same brand of bullets that killed all 4. It was the same man who killed all 4. We had his cell phone records. We put him at the scene of the crime. And it took over 5 years. We suffered for 5 years. Every family here, we suffered for 5 years. Every time they would say, well, we violated his rights. We need to throw that out of court. Or any time they would say, we don't think all those trials should go together. We should split them up. That way we can suffer even more. What are we doing? We got the finest justice system in the world. And I've traveled the world in the Navy. I've seen the justice systems. We have the finest one in the world. But I think sometimes we get mired in the muck, which just drags us down. The same evidence today that he pled guilty to was the evidence that we had 5 years ago. We need to really take that into consideration. If you're a defense attorney out there and you know the case is going nowhere, I understand it's your job to try and give him a fair shake, but when the evidence is overwhelming, maybe you should make a deal so that the families don't have to deal with all of the garbage that comes with this trial. I also forgave him. It's my job as a Christian to forgive him. I didn't forgive what he did. He's going to pay for what he did. He's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, paying for what he did to our families. My daughter was a ray of sunshine. She was challenging for a father sometimes, as all daughters are. But she was amazing, playful, resourceful, awesome child. But we don't have her anymore. We are very thankful to Seminole Heights community, to Tampa, and to the police department for everything you've done. We will always be indebted to you. Thank you.
I'd now like to invite anyone who'd like to speak from Ben Mitchell's family to come up.
Hello, everyone. I am one of Ben Mitchell's sisters. There are 6 of us. We have Edwina, Sarah, Ashley, Elise, and then his nieces and nephews that he will never get to meet. My brother Ben was amazing. He had to endure 6 girls. This is hard. In court, I had so much to say. However, it was cut short. I don't think I'll ever be able to say everything that I wanted or needed to say to the person that chose to kill our brother, my mother's son. It's hard. It was hard to look at him. It makes me sick to even say his name, which I refuse to do. I want to thank everyone, all of you guys that played a part in this. It's so many of you guys, I can't even say all of your names, but I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Some of the families got up and spoke about forgiveness. I'm not one of those. I'm not there, and I don't know if I'll ever be there. And as I stated on the stand, that is something I'll have to take up with the Lord when my time comes. What he did, he has destroyed so many families. However, today, we've all agreed that we all have been bonded and we are all now family. whenever I want to see or visit, my brother, I have to come to Tampa and sit and talk to a headstone that's never going to answer me back. Never in a million years would I wish this on anyone. If you got the chance to meet Ben, you would love him. He was very special, very intelligent, very bright, very talented. And he was on his way to become something phenomenal. And he was robbed of that. So was Anthony, so was Monica, and so was Ronald. It's so hard. As I walk through my house, there's pictures of my brother. I often feel like I hear him talking to me. My brother was not confrontational. He used to be scared of the dark. So that night when he was coming home, I don't know if him and that coward that chose to end his life had words. I don't know if my brother was scared. I don't know if it was instant when he was shot. Not the first time, not the second time. My brother took 4 bullets. I wonder if he cried out for our mother, if he even had the chance. If he wanted any of his sisters, what were his last thoughts? I know that this was supposed to go to trial in August. I don't know why he chose to go the route that he did. I'm glad it's over. I'm glad my mother lived long enough to be able to see this coward get what some thinks he deserves. Me, on the other hand, I think otherwise. But I'm just a grieving sister. We all loved Ben, Fat Boy as I called him. Again, I want to thank everyone from the bottom of my heart. And as we leave Tampa to go back to Vegas to resume our lives, I'm sure it's going to be a long flight, but at least we can finally breathe. We can begin to heal. Some may begin to forgive. Again, I'm not there. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brenda Samuel. I'm Benjamin Mitchell's mother. All I have to say is I want to thank everybody that helped with finding the person that killed my son. I can finally sleep tonight. No more crying. No more being angry. I'm just glad it's over with. And I just want to thank everybody. I don't have the words to express how I really feel about the person that killed my son. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sasha Ray. I am the niece of Ben. I just love him and miss him dearly. And there's really no words to say We're all hurt, sad. We have to go visit our loved ones at a gravesite. Things just would never be the same again. Our family is torn apart since this incident occurred. But like I said, today we have met the other families, and they're all loving and caring, and we all came together today as a family. But I just want to say that thank you for everybody. I'm glad that this is over with, so that way we won't have to suffer as much. And just want to say thank you, and that's it. Thank you, guys. Come on, Mike.
I'd now like to invite more of Monica's family to come up and speak.
Hi, I'm Yuri Gutierrez. I'm Monica's cousin, but more than cousins, we were like sisters, and in many cases, I was like a mother figure for her. We lived with my grandparents, her mom and me, and my mom. So we grew up together. I saw how she developed, how she grew into a beautiful, beautiful person. She helped everyone. She loved everyone. She was very welcoming to everyone. It didn't matter what color, what race. She was just an awesome friend to everyone. My aunt, Olga, which is Monica's mom, is deaf, and she couldn't be here today for health reasons, but I know she wanted everyone to know the impact that this has made on her life and on the deaf community. Monica was going to school to become certified ASL, but she knew ASL. And like Kenny said earlier, she was the person that communicated with Olga on everything at family events, on anything that was happening. That was her best friend. They were more than just mom and daughter, they were best friends. My grandparents as well, they loved Monica so much. Monica was their priority. And the last person that spoke with Monica on October 11th around 7:45 was my grandmother, and the next day was my grandmother's birthday. And they were making plans because my grandfather was going to pick up Monica the next day. Monica was going to confirm at what time and call her back. And Monica never called back. And as you can imagine, the next day, on October 12th, all day, my grandmother's birthday, and my grandmother and Monica were very close, and no phone call. And my grandmother suffered through that, thinking that she maybe forgot. And then on that Friday, and I received a phone call at work. A friend of hers that was looking for Monica because Monica was not responding. And not until later that day did we find out what happened. We've wanted to know why for so long. And I know we're not going to get that. But I could tell you that what he did not only took her life and the victims' lives, but it destroyed my grandparents. They're both now gone. My grandmother and my grandfather said that they wanted to be here the day that there was justice, and they couldn't see that because this took a toll on their health so bad, on their emotional health. And it weakened them, and they didn't make it. I've seen what it's done to my aunt also on her health, because imagine every day that was her only daughter. That was her only daughter. And she can't speak with her. She can't see her. And like him, like what I said to him today, yes, he's going to have the rest of his life to think about what he did, but he's still here, and he could still speak with his family, and we cannot do the same. I want to thank everyone, again, the state attorney, the officers, everyone involved in this case, and I appreciate everything that's been done and the support that we've received, and support, from family, from friends, throughout the years. It's been a long journey, and even though that she's not going to be back. This next chapter is going to begin a new process in healing for our family. Because, again, our family is never going to be the same, never going to be the same. But we need to heal and look forward to the future. And I thank you, again, for the support that the community's given us. Do you want to say anything? Okay, Olga would like to say. Olga is on the phone.
Olga is on FaceTime. She's sick, and she'd like to say something. Thank you to the police department for arresting this man. And it's never going to be the same. She's gone. I lost my daughter ever since I lost my daughter. Monica always talked about her goals, her job. And now I feel like it's so quiet because Monica's not here. And now I finally, the police have put this man in jail for life, and I feel relieved. And I'm ready to move on. God be with us all. Monica, I love you, and I say I love you to her.
Yes. Yeah. And I wanted to say one thing. Thank you, Joe Carroll, for the work that you guys do. It's amazing. And she's been a communication with us and keeping us informed. And I really wanted to take a moment to say thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Yes, thanks, Joe and team.
The person that Udi is referring to is Joe Carroll Bird from our Victim Assistance Program. I'm so sorry. Joe Carroll Bird is an incredibly valued member of our Victims Assistance Program. Last week was National Crime Victims' Rights Week, and we had the opportunity to honor Joe Carroll for 25 years of service. And so, Udi, thank you. Thank you for that. I would now like to invite a member or whoever would like to speak from the Felton family to come up and speak. James.
Good morning, late morning. My name is James Felton Jr. I'm the brother of Ronald Felton. We know that it has been a stressful moment for us. We know we have been a stressful moment for us. And we know that they know it took 51 days to find this guy and put him behind bars. But now, since the day has come to update, is that life in prison, and hopefully that the family feel very relieved of what's going on and what happened on today. And I just hope that, like I said earlier in the court, that strengthening that remains in us and that we continue to live on. And I know we're going to think about this time, about our family when their birthdays come, about what a joyful moment that we had in family reunion and everything. But we must go on and just give God thanks for everything. And also, our former mayor back here, he was one of the behind-the-scenes SWAT teams every night. And I thank all the officers and everyone that is here. And we are family now. We are family. Hope that we all get together and just celebrate. And, just thank God for what happened. This is my mother here, and I'm speaking for the family, and hopefully that she will have a closure here. She's up in age, but she looks beautiful, and we want to thank you.
My name is Sherilyn Lee, and I would like to say November the 14th was a tragic for this family. First off, before I go any further, I would like to thank everyone that's in the room, especially Ms. Susan Lopez and Ms. Carroll. They have been great support along with the officers here. Bob Buckhorn, I really like to thank you for what you have done also. But Anyone else I miss, I'm sorry. But at the end of the day, I would like to say today has been a relief. I'm going to speak on behalf of all the families, and I'm sure they will agree. We have been going through this for almost 5 years, and it's really tough for us to at least have some type of closure. And all I can say is what I said to the gentleman in there is he need to just seek God, because what he has done has taken a lot and destroyed a lot of families, 4 families. And it's just unbelievable that it took this long. But at the end of the day, we can say thank you that you all fought for us to put closure to us. This will be a celebration for the 4 families now, today. And we will celebrate every year on this day. And I would like to say thank y'all so much for all y'all have done.
Last, I would like to invite Brian Fry. He is a community leader in Seminole Heights. And during the 51 days of terror, he exercised his leadership and his grace. Mr. Fry?
Good morning. This is an important day for our city and for our community in Seminole Heights and for the families of the victims of these unconscionable acts. I want to thank the State Attorney's Office, former Mayor Bob Buckhorn, the former Chief of Police Brian Dugan, and every law enforcement agency that helped and participated in the apprehension of the individual that brought terror to our community. Mostly, I want to thank my fellow community leaders, residents, and neighbors of Seminole Heights for never giving in, for walking the streets, rallying, having dinners, and feeding our law enforcement to make sure that this individual was caught, and with the support to the families who needed it most, and to assure that these families were taken care of even to this day. Out of tragedy, bonds between our community in Seminole Heights with law enforcement and our city grow stronger even today. And for that, I am very thankful. To the precious families of the victims, it was and continues to be an honor to stand beside you today. I speak on behalf of the entire Seminole Heights community when I say we will never forget Anthony, Benjamin, Monica, and Ronald. They will be in and a part of our hearts forever as they are finally able to rest peacefully. May God bless each one of these families now and always. Thank you.
We'll open it up to some questions now. Thank you all very much for speaking here today. We'll open it up to some questions.
Ms. Lopez,
Yes, sir.
I guess a lot of people in the community want to know, why did you accept a plea from the defendant for life in prison without the possibility of parole, especially when you have the Naiboa family who wanted to seek the death penalty?
It's my understanding in 2018, when the decision was made for the state to seek the death penalty, there was not unanimity amongst the families. As we stand here today, you can see that amongst the 3 families, there is unanimity. And none of us would ever want to walk the walk that Mr. Naiboa has had to walk. We respect his decision. There's actually more unanimity now than there was in 2018 in the decision to seek the death penalty. That is my understanding. These families, to them, this is justice, and that is what we are honoring.
Do you think that the recent change in the state law regarding the death penalty influenced the defense in their decision to present this offer?
That's an excellent question. I don't know the answer to it, though.
Is there ever a situation where, even against the wishes of 4 families, you would still go after the death penalty?
Let me make sure that I'm understanding your question correctly, that we would still seek the death penalty even if a family did not want to? We look at every case, we analyze every case, we look at every factor. So the decisions that we have made since I've been in office have been with the wishes, honoring the wishes of the victims' families.
And obviously, pleas happen all the time, but is there a concern that might send a message to somebody else out there, drag a case on as long as you can, and then offer up a plea, and maybe you'll get out of potential death penalty?
Well, to be clear, we were approached by the defense. We did not offer a plea. The defendant made us an offer. He offered to plead to 4 consecutive life sentences in avoidance of the death penalty. The length of the case, the length of the pendency of the case had absolutely nothing to do with the decision of the families or the decision of the state attorney's office. If this case had gone on for another 20 years, these families have been through hell. They've been through hell for almost 6 years. But they held on because that is what this justice system requires. And it was the defendant coming to us that got the ball rolling in the last couple of weeks to reach this resolution. But they, as I've said, are our first priority.
When was it that you were approached for the?
A couple weeks ago. We had to speak to everyone. That was our first priority, speaking to all of the family members. Not everyone lives here. You've heard that there's family who lives in Nevada. We had to speak to everyone, and that takes time. This was not a decision that was made lightly or overnight. This was a very difficult decision for the families and for the office, but they're our first priority, and to them, this is justice.
And when you say it remains a death penalty case, do you mean that he's going to die in prison, that is his death penalty, or why is it a death penalty case if it's ultimately not?
Because he has accepted, we have accepted his offer of life and avoidance, but the statutory criteria, the aggravating factors significantly outweigh the mitigating factors. So there is not a scenario that we have come across in this case where we have come off of the death penalty, decided not to seek it. This was an offer that was made by the defendant to the state of Florida to plead to life in prison in avoidance of the death penalty. And it is with the family's support that we agreed to accept that offer.
Former Mayor Buckhorn, is there anything that you'd like to say about this?
It was 51 days of sheer terror on the part of this community on Seminole Heights for these families. But ultimately, that is not my burden to bear. It is the families. And so while those of us who have advocated for a different sentence at times, this is their choice. It's not my choice. And I think Susie and her staff have made the right decision. He will spend the rest of his life in a cage of his own construction. But I also know that the day will come where he's going to meet his maker, and he's going to rot in hell. But it's the family's decision today. And I respect it. Our law enforcement personnel respects it. They are the ones who have carried this burden for almost 6 years. They deserve to have their say. They deserve to have answers. They got them today. Justice was served. But at the end of the day, there's going to be justice somewhere else.
Chief Dugan, may I ask, you lost sleep over this case. I was on the streets with you, walking. I could see the stress in your face, sir. First off, I want to ask you what you think of this, and also ask you, because you did talk to Mr. Naiboa, is this the resolution you wanted to see?
5.5 years ago, I think I would have wrestled half the families in here to be the guy who got to stick a needle in his arm. Maybe I'm getting soft in my old age. But, I randomly will speak to the different families, bump into them. Casimir Naiboa and I have a very unique relationship because I actually met him the following morning at the crime scene where we had already cleared the crime scene. And introduced myself. He told me, yeah, I know who you are. I saw you on TV last night. And he wanted me to show him where his son had died. And I was standing right there and showed him the blood-stained sand of where his son had just laid hours before us. That's no way to meet someone. But him and I have a bond. He's not happy with this, but I get it. And the reason he wasn't here today, I spoke to him. We text at length on Saturday. I did text him yesterday and told him I would speak on his behalf. But, he said to me, and you can't argue this, he said, how do you expect me to be in the same room with someone who killed my son and destroyed my family? And he's never gotten over this. He'll never get over it. I don't question that. I don't question a grieving father. He believes in an eye for an eye, and I explained to him what the defendant would be up against for the rest of his life. And quite frankly, he really does not care. His form of justice is that he be put to death, and I respect that.
The defense mentioned that the defendant has a mental health diagnosis. Did that factor into the decision to accept the plea?
We presented all of that to the families. We presented out everything to the families that we learned. Thank you all very much for being here today.
I'll show you.
Thank you.